This is WPSL Port Saint Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but we're the ones that have encouraged you all along to like and share them on social media and with all your friends and neighbors. It's time for the African American Scene, presented each week at this time by Martin County Roofing and Rudy's Health Insurance. In fact, here's your host of this show right now, the one, the only, Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. I hope all of you are doing well out there. And we're going to have an open mic night tonight. But my focus is going to be on impeachment. And I encourage you, with all the talk of impeachment, I thought it was only proper we take a little bit of a deep dive into what impeachment is and how it has performed in the past. But we're going to start off tonight with our new feature, Black Trivia, which is sponsored by the Cartwright firm, specializing in car accidents, personal injury cases, police misconduct, wrongful death, civil rights violations, discrimination, sports entertainment, business litigation. So if you can get the answer to this question, then you have to text your answer to this number, 772-349-1407. And you must include your name, occupation, and email address. If you do not include those items, you will not get the answer. And here's the question for tonight. Who is Julius Perry? Where is he from? And why is he now famous? Okay, who is Julius Perry? Where is he from? And why is he now famous? Okay, so if you know the answer to that, their phone number is 772-349-1407. Okay, so with all the talk about impeachment, I took it upon myself to try to provide some enlightenment about impeachment in the past and what impeachment actually is. The president, vice president, and all civil officers of the U.S. shall be removed from office for a conviction of treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. So what was the purpose of impeachment? It actually stemmed from England, something that they had back in the 15th century about trying to make sure that officers conducted themselves properly. But the main reason created in America was a national inquest into behavior and conduct of public men. That was the purpose of impeachment. Impeachment has been initiated over 60 times. Fewer than 20 cases have led to full impeachment. There have only been 8 convictions, and you're going to find out why there's a difference between convictions and impeachments. And all of those 8 were judges. So we're talking about a process that has gone on for hundreds of years, and there's only been 60 times that it's happened, and only 8 have been convicted, and they were all judges. How does impeachment begin? If you have questions, that phone number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. The House has to initiate an investigation in the Judiciary Committee. That's where the impeachment process begins. An investigation initiated in the Judiciary Committee. The Judiciary Committee will draw up articles of impeachment. In the committee, they have to vote whether to bring the articles of impeachment to the full House. So the Judiciary Committee initiates it, and then the committee itself has to decide whether or not it needs to be brought to the full House for a vote. Let's look at some of the past impeachments. One of the most famous, of course, is Andrew Johnson. And he was the only impeachment of a sitting president. And his impeachment had to do with his reluctance to adhere to the changes that took place from the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, that one was something that most people know about. And we got Winnie on line 1. Yes, Winnie.
How you doing? Why impeach you, Biden?
I'm sorry?
Impeaching the virus of Joe Biden. Why they doing him?
Well, Winnie, there's a lot of people asking that question. I read an article by the New York Times that said the historians have said the case against Joe Biden is the thinnest case they've ever seen in history of impeachments. But, you know, we're so tribal right now that I feel the main purpose of the impeachment of Joe Biden is to get back for the impeachment of Donald Trump. I wish I could say it was something else, but it seems to me, without any concrete information to put on Joe Biden for wrongdoing, that's all I can come up with.
Yeah. So how that public they try to do the try.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is, I think what they're doing, Winnie, is very similar to what, and you've hung up, but I'll finish my statement. I think what they're doing is very similar to what they did with Hillary Clinton. They want to cast so many dispersions about Joe Biden's character that will cause people who are nonpartisans or independents to have doubts about voting for him. So even though they can't offer any proof, and I'm going to get into that as we move along here, it is enough that it will cause people to have doubts. And I think that is basically how they destroyed Hillary Clinton, creating doubts about her veracity, even though she sat before Congress for 11 hours and testified. There was never any indictments. And listen, for my conservative friends, I want you to get this, please. I've been trying to convince a conservative guy I've been having debates with for some time. And he tells me about Hunter Biden, and I go, well, are there any indictments? I don't know of any Democrat that would defend Hunter Biden if there was an indictment. And if there was wrongdoing by Joe Biden, then they should make an indictment. Don't just cast aspersions and smear his character, because that's not Christian-like, and that's really out of bounds. Either you have something or you don't have something. The impeachment of Richard Nixon. Articles of impeachment were drawn up in July of 1974. And we all know the famous Watergate and the tapes, etc. Nixon resigned in August of 1974. So 1 month after the articles of impeachment were drawn up, he resigned. Now, here's what's really unusual about that. He was approached by the Republican Party leaders and told that he needed to resign. I can't imagine that happening today. I really can't. But they went and they told him that you had to do it for the good of the party, even. Gerald Ford then turned around and pardoned him. So Nixon's articles of impeachment were drawn up, but he resigned 1 month later to avoid the full impeachment process. Now, I could tell you, if you wanted the details for what happened with the Watergate, I'll be glad to do that for you, but I would think that almost everybody listening here has a pretty good handle on what exactly happened there with the tapes and the plumbers, and there's been TV, there's an HBO movie on it. So it's been pretty well played out. Now, the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was impeached for lying under oath and obstruction of justice. Now, what he got ultimately impeached for, the sex scandal, was not the original assignment for special counsel. The special counsel, Ken Starr, kind of stumbled into that in the course of his investigation. Now, do I or will I defend Bill Clinton for lying under oath? No, I will not. I will not defend him for lying on oath. And I'm going to say that I truly believe, had he admitted it, that he had the affair, he may not have been impeached. That's my personal opinion. That's not based on factual information, but I just want to make it very clear that I in no way can defend the fact that he lied under oath. That's out of bounds. And I think that can fall into the description of impeachment just barely. But the most important thing is, at the end of the day, I don't think most people were in favor of him being impeached based on his sexual misconduct. Now, the impeachment of Donald Trump and his impeachment is record-breaking because he's the only president to be impeached twice. In the first case, he sought to have Ukraine announce an investigation against former VP Joe Biden and his son Hunter. So that was his intent. And wait, now notice what I said, announce. He didn't necessarily even care whether or not there was an investigation. He wanted it announced that there was an investigation. Now, let's talk about the impeachment of Joe Biden, which is the hot topic of the moment. What are the charges? The charges are that Hunter Biden profited in business dealings with foreign entities by arranging access to Joe Biden as vice president. That's the allegation. Okay. It is further alleged that President Biden personally profited from Hunter's deals. It is also stated that the Justice Department interfered with the investigation of Hunter Biden. Special counsel for the government says that did not happen. Okay, so now we've got these three allegations out there. We don't have any indictments. Well, we do have an indictment against Hunter, but it's not having to do with Joe Biden. So before I go into this, I'm going to go into the evidence, but let's take a quick break. And so I don't want you to touch that dial, but we're going to take a little quick break. And we're going to get back and we're going to talk more about the evidence against Joe Biden. And if you want to call in to discuss this topic, that phone number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590.
At Martin County Roofing, they build trust with quality work. With over 20 years of experience, they handle repairs, restoration, and new roofs for residential and commercial properties. Serving the entire Treasure Coast area, they're fully licensed, bonded, and insured, specializing in tile, metal, shingle, or flat roofs. Let them protect what matters most to you. Contact Martin County Roofing for a free estimate at www.martincountyroofing.com.
Hi, this is Rudy Howard, your independent insurance agent. This means I represent multiple companies which will allow me to match you with the best company for your needs. I am now officially Rudy's Health Insurance LLC. So, if you need a Medicare plan or a health plan, call me. That number is 475-8856 or my Facebook page, Rudy's Health Insurance. I am ready to serve you.
This is WPSL Port Saint Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
We now return to the African American scene. Once again, here's your host, Rudy Howard.
Here's another allegation against Joe Biden. It is alleged that Joe received $5 million and Hunter received $5 million. That's the allegation, which makes it the Biden crime family. I always find that kind of interesting because when Kushner left office from working for Donald Trump, he got a $2 billion, listen to this again now, a $2 billion loan from the Saudis. I wonder, do you think that the fact that his father-in-law was President Trump had any bearing on his ability to get that amount of money? Now, there's some of you listening who are hardcore conservatives who've never even heard that story before. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. It's readily available information. Hunter's business partner testified to Congress, and he said he was not aware of any such payments. Did you hear that? Hunter's business partner said he was not aware of any such payments. The head of the company in Ukraine, Burisma, said he did not have any contact with Joe Biden. So you got Hunter's business partner saying he was not aware of any money going to Joe. And you got the head of the company, Burisma, saying that they did not have any contact with Joe Biden. But again, the whole idea is, let's see how much dirt we can throw on Joe so it would reduce the confidence in people to support him for his reelection. And let me make this perfectly clear about my position. If there is evidence that Joe Biden did something wrong, then convict him, charge him, be specific about what it is that he did, and make the allegation stick. If you don't do that, then what you are doing is smudging and dirtying his character for political purposes. And all this does is deepen our political divide. That's all it does. Now, let's take a look at some of the past investigations. Mueller investigated the the Trump situation for 24 months. He got 34 indictments. 24 months, 34 indictments. And contrary to what many say, he did not give President Trump a clean bill of health. The January 6th investigation lasted 18 months, and they got over 1,000 indictments. The Hunter Biden, Joe Biden investigation has been going on since 2018. Hunter was indicted for some tax irregularities, but nothing against Joe Biden. Okay? I'm just asking you to be fair. I ain't asking you to agree with me. I'm just asking you, just look at the facts. There's been 5 years of investigation, and there has been no evidence presented that makes Joe Biden dirty. So now you have to begin to ask yourself a question now. With an investigation that's gone on for 5 years with no indictments, what is the purpose of the investigation? Does this sound remotely familiar to Hillary's emails? Is the goal to throw enough crap against the wall to create doubt about Joe Biden like they did with Hillary Clinton? Hillary testified for 11 hours before Congress. She was investigated by 3 different Republican committees, and there were no indictments. Can you set aside your tribe and apply some objective reasoning? That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm just asking you to be objective. Look at the facts. And it's already been stated by historians, this Joe Biden impeachment is the thinnest impeachment in history. The thinnest. There's nothing even like prima facie information that would lead one to consider impeachment. And here's the question I have for you tonight, and I would like an answer. Have we allowed impeachment to become a political weapon, which was not its intent? Have we? Can any of you, I would love to have somebody call up to me and tell me why the impeachment of Joe Biden is proper given the information that we have at hand. But if you're going to call me up and tell me that, I don't want speculation. I don't want conspiracy theories. I want you to tell me specifically information that leads you to believe that the indictment of Joe Biden would be proper. In the absence of that, I'm going to ask you to do some soul searching. And we got Steve on line one. Hey, Steve.
How you doing, Rudy?
Okay.
Good. I was been listening. You said you had an open mic. One thing that bothers me is when they have these grand juries and they indict people, and then I hear they want to have the trial 2 years later. Don't you think if you have enough to indict them, you have enough to go to trial?
Yeah.
Then why don't they do it?
Generally because the wheels of justice oftentimes spin very slowly, Steve.
Well,
And there will
time.
be, even with what Fannie Willis has done in Atlanta, and the target date is October 23rd. I doubt if there will be on October 23rd, because there'll be all the political maneuvering that will take place, such as motions and all of the things that go along with that.
Oh, yeah.
So now let me share this with you, because I heard this just yesterday. I saw Cy Vance interviewed, and one of the questions with Cy Vance was, is she biting off more than she could chew with 19 indictments? And he said, no, I had a case of 125 indictments. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yep.
And I think her argument, which I think makes a lot of sense, is if you don't do them all at once, you're putting those people through the trauma of having to testify 2, 3, 4 times maybe for the same set of facts.
Well, that's the whole point. How are you going to get everybody to be on the same set of facts?
Yeah.
Once you get that guy that wanders, the jury's going to say, aha.
Yeah.
No. But I would try them all at once.
Oh, I think she is.
Yeah, because if you string it out, that's crazy. That's giving everybody else a pass. Because the prosecution will have shown everything they have.
That's right. That's right.
I would just like to see justice speed it up. We have a speedy trial law. The guy asked for it. Give it to him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And once they're convicted, make sure they stay in jail.
Steve, I believe we're going to see some people go to jail. I firmly believe there are going to be people going to jail here, including our former president. That's just my opinion, but in my opinion, I think the former president is going to go to jail. So,
everybody threatens on his side, if he goes to jail, violence. You're talking about 1,000th of 1% of the people. The rest of us who aren't saying a word, we're not going to go along with that. If he goes to jail, he goes to jail. That's it.
That's right. Well, thank you, Steve. I got another caller coming in.
Thank you.
All righty. Good to hear from you. Jay, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. Glad to talk to you, Rudy. Yeah, you were bringing up the case about what happened in Ukraine when you were talking about that's where Biden, when his son was working there in Ukraine, he had a lot of perks, and he was making a little bit of money there. But the thing was, Trump called the president of Ukraine. He called Zelensky and was threatening him. And the phone call was actually was taped because you can hear it on CNN. They were listening to the conversation, and he was like giving the president of Ukraine an ultimatum. We're going to stop giving you military aid if you don't do what I ask you to do, and that is to find dirt on Biden on what's the name on Biden's father. If you don't find any, if you don't do what we say, we're gonna make it hard on you, and we won't make sure you get the weapons that you need in your country. We're gonna stop supplying you with military weapons unless you do, what we say. And he threatened them, and that was why the impeachment started. That was part of it. But it seems like the media doesn't talk about that incident. They just bring up, well, impeachment and, Biden took money. There's no proof that he took money. His son had some thing going on over there overseas when he was working for Iraq, and he was on the board there. But we can't prove, that he gave anything to his father. So if there's no proof, and you know what Trump was doing, and then you had Giuliani over there, America's mayor, the great America's, mayor of New York City, over there trying to intimidate the president, the same one right now that's running the war in Iraq, is doing a great job. He was being intimidated by Giuliani also, and then they had the nerve to get rid of the person that was the ambassador for the United States Senate. For the United States Secretary of State, who was an ambassador in Ukraine. They got rid of her because they didn't want her to interfere with what they were trying to do in Ukraine. That was when Trump was on his way, getting ready to go out. But all of that never is being brought up when they start talking about, well, what about about his son, both out working over there in Iraq and had all this influence, and what about his father being at that time vice president? I know he got some money somewhere from them. Nobody talks about what Trump did and what Giuliani did and the rest of those clowns. It's like it never happened.
And Jay, as I said earlier, I have yet to hear anybody talk about the $2 billion that Jared Kushner got from the Saudis. I would like to hear somebody explain that to me. He got $2 billion from the Saudis. Is there any doubt in your mind that he was able to get that money because he was the son-in-law of Donald Trump? Would anybody like to call up and dare to defend that and say being the son-in-law of Donald Trump had nothing to do with it? I'm still waiting, though, for somebody to call up and tell me, based on current information, why Joe Biden should be impeached. I'd love to hear it. Now, let me tell you something else I just found out before I came on the air. There's been 2 more lawsuits filed against Fox. One of the pension fund managers for the city of New York is going after Fox because the settlement had an impact on the value of the company, which in direct effect has an effect on his pension fund recipients. And there's been another one out in Arizona where they're making the same allegation. And here's one for my conservative friends. There's been another one filed by Ray Epps for the destruction of his life by making unverified allegations against him and his involvement in January 6th. So Fox got some issues. And if there's one thing I want you to get out of this that I think is really, really important, you just can't lie on people and they have no consequences. Fox has already had a $787 million consequence from the voting machine company. And they have an additional lawsuit pending by the software company. So there is a potential, and I'm not wishing this on them, there's a potential Fox could be destroyed by virtue of allowing untrue, unfounded, and lying information to be actually broadcast through their network. I think that's appropriate. And I have absolutely no use for Tucker Carlson and his willingness to tell all kinds of fabrications. And I have watched Sean Hannity take the same story that I looked at on another channel and cut it up into pieces so that it would be more favorable to his point of view. Now, is it possible that there's other companies that do that? The answer is yes. Most do not. And I will say, if you, as much criticism as you might want to throw at MSNBC, if MSNBC had somebody that really got off of the plantation as far as their left-wing point of view, they got rid of them. They're gone. They didn't have to have somebody else sue to get rid of them. They got rid of them on their own. So, but I want you to stay tuned for that, because now it's probably because of what Steve said before, that the hands of justice spin awfully slow. But I think at the end of the day, Fox is going to get hurt again. And we could be seeing the end of Fox if these lawsuits come through and there are substantial judgments. Love to have your opinion. Haven't heard from Carlos in a while. That's 340-1590. That's 340-1590. So, do you think the impeachment of Joe Biden is proper? And if so, please tell me the basis upon which you feel the impeachment should go forward. The only requirement I have is that you give me some specifics. I don't want to hear about Hunter's laptop. That's not having to do anything with Joe Biden. But I am willing to listen to anything that you have of a concrete nature that would indict Joe Biden of bad behavior as a vice president or president. And listen, as I said before, I can't defend Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton lied. I saw him on the tape. What is sex? Sex is what? He just lied. Simple as that. And he paid the price for telling a lie. And he should have paid the price for telling a lie. Now, he did not get ejected from office. I'm not sure that he should have been ejected from office for that, but he should have been impeached for telling a lie. So, I listen, I continue to be a guy that tries to play fair. I try to call it fair. And if you can call up and tell me specifics of what Joe Biden did that require him to be impeached, I'm willing to listen. 340-1590, 340-1590. If you can give me specifics, I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to give that some consideration if you can provide me with information that specifically points to Joe Biden doing something specific. And you can't dismiss the testimony of all the other people involved in the process as being unimportant, such as Hunter Biden's partner, who said he's unaware of Joe Biden receiving anything, and the owner of Burisma saying he never had any contact with Joe Biden. So again, my point to you is, if you are willing to continue the consideration of all these specious allegations, then you're not interested in truth. You're interested in destroying the character of Joe Biden. Same is true as what they did to Hillary. What they did to Hillary, I have no doubt that and Comey's last-minute testimony destroyed her ability to become president of the United States. So now I know there's some of you out there that are like, I still want Donald Trump. 2 impeachments. I want you to listen to this now. 2 impeachments, historic. 4 indictments, historic. 91, listen to 91 charges. What's the odds that out of 91 charges, he's innocent of all 91? Just be logical. I'm not asking you to agree with me. Just think it through. Do you think they can get 4 indictments, make 91 charges, and there is no semblance of facts? There is no information there to support the lawsuit? Well, if you know anything about the legal process and about lawyers, lawyers hate to lose. They don't want to lose. There is, and I'm going to tell you this, and I have in my past life been a regional claims manager and a regional director for litigation management for an insurance company. They don't bring those suits unless they have a clear opportunity to prevail. Please give that some thought. For all of you to think this is wrong and that it's out of bounds, give it some thought. Why would I, an attorney with an esteemed reputation, bring a lawsuit that I couldn't prove? Why would I do that? Just to get him? No. that may be that could be part of it, but you don't do that just to get him. You got to do that because you think you have a case that you can make. If you can't make a case, you don't do that. If there's any lawyers on here listening, conservative or not, they will tell you the same thing. You just don't make allegations like that, especially with a high profile defendant, and not have any substantive information